Ben, should the Brickyard 400 return, or you'd be fine switching back and forth between each layout?
Well, Kobe, there's a saying, you never know what you've got till it's gone. And I think the Brickyard 400 falls into that category for me. Listen, I've been on record the last several years before the Brickyard 400 disappeared as saying the Bristol Night Race is the fourth crown jewel. The Brickyard 400 has lost its luster. The novelty of stock cars on the IMS Oval is worn off at this point, and the racing simply was not that great. And I think now that we've seen the hole that in the schedule that the Brickyard 400 is left, and also consider the race that we saw last year and the controversy was the curb coming up and the incompetency from race control and how they restarted that race and the accidents that we saw in the multiple overtime finishes. Just an absolute mess. And you can point to the 2008 race where we have tire issues, but that I think pales in comparison. At least there wasn't a bunch of massive accidents. It was frustrating to see competition cautions every handful of laps, but it was just an absolute mess last year. And I think Kevin Harvick has been the most outspoken about it, but a lot of drivers are saying, it doesn't make sense for a series of our level, of our prestige, to be going the wrong way down the front straightaway at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And I also don't like the idea of, alternate hosts or alternate tracks for alternate years that Penske's considering here. I would like to see the Brickyard 400 return the right way, and that's become an annual event, become a crown jewel again in the NASCAR Cup Series. I wouldn't actually mind seeing them both. I think I've always been a proponent of the idea that we shouldn't go to the same track more than once. It's very rare to see that in any other racing series around the world. Ironically, the IndyCar series has started doing that with the IMS road course the last couple of years, but I think their schedule has some issues that they need to iron out as well. And I think in a perfect world, they probably wouldn't be doing that. They'd probably be going to other tracks anyway. It's just kind of to keep the race count up a little bit. But I would not mind seeing, like the opening act, if you will, like the IMS road course race, and then turn right around, come back next week and run the Brickyard 400 as a crown jewel race. I wouldn't mind seeing that at all. But I think there's been a lot of fans posting old highlights this weekend on social media. They love the Brickyard 400. They love the idea that, a new tradition was started in 1994. That was Bob Jenkins' famous call as Jeff Gordon was crossing the yard of bricks. And he said, years from now, when X number of Brickyard 400s have been run, and yet here we are almost 30 years later, and we're not running the Brickyard 400 anymore. We're running the Verizon 200 at the Brickyard, going the wrong way down the front stretch because we're running the road course. It just doesn't seem right to not have that race on the schedule, given how big of a deal it was in 1994 when it first began. And I think now that fans have not had that the last couple of years, if they were to bring the race back, you might see the stands fill back up a little bit. You might see the ratings go back up as well. And I think people would start to take the race more seriously as a crown jewel event. So I think it's time to bring it back as soon as there's an opportunity. And hopefully Roger Penske will do just that.